Hey, what's up guys? So yeah, I know it's been forever since I've uploaded, like it's been 5 weeks or something like that. So for those of you who follow my channel, you know I try to upload about every 2 weeks or so. So anyway, I haven't uploaded forever because me and my wife just had our 4th kid. So we have 4 kids and our oldest is 4 years old. So things definitely can get a little bit crazy. And on top of that, for the past week, we haven't had any internet, so that just put me even further behind schedule. So I guess just real quick, I'll talk about my channel here for a minute. So YouTube obviously is not my full-time job. I work a regular 40-hour week job, actually a lot of times more than 40 hours a week. So YouTube and all my other hobbies that I have, I try to fit those in, prioritize my time. I spend as much time with my family as I can outside of work, obviously, and so YouTube, editing and doing the builds themselves basically gets pushed to, late at night when everybody's gone to bed, that sort of thing. So anyway, that's why typically there's even 2 weeks in between my uploads. It just takes a while for me to get that stuff done, guys. So anyway, this is the crossbow that I've been talking about building. I'll give you guys better up close later, and I will show you guys the build of it here in just a second. And so originally I talked about building a crossbow that was going to shoot that spear that I had made, but just with some really quick math, the amount of weight that thing had, it would have taken like a ridiculously huge crossbow to shoot, and I wanted something that was still handheld. So basically I made a miniature version of that. It's still pretty good size. I'll give you guys an up close here. This is just a 3/4 inch end cap, and with a little bit of pipe welded to it. Anyways, it holds a shotgun shell, and then these are some spikes. So this one is probably weighs about 4 pounds, and it's roughly 4 feet long. So, but basically that just made it to where I could keep it in, the size of something that was still handheld. So anyway, before we get to the build of this, let's get into some of the history of these crossbows. So although crossbows aren't as popular nowadays as they were back in the day when people were fighting dragons and dinosaurs, crossbows do have a very rich history. So crossbows gained most of their popularity back in the medieval times when knights roamed the earth. And that's typically why people think they're so evil, is just because they think back during the medieval times. But if we look back in history, we can actually find crossbows go all the way back when Viking warlords sailed the seas. Vikings were known to be very ruthless in battle, and we know that by the types of weapons they used, such as these. They would wear thick metal armor to protect against their enemies' arrows. But the arrows that they used, like these, would pierce the enemy's armor, and then the shotgun round would go off and render their enemies useless. And so a question that I get a lot is, well, how did Vikings obtain gunpowder so early on when the Chinese were the ones who invented it? Well, what they did is when the Chinese would attack, they would capture them, take their gunpowder, and basically use their own weapons against them. So although Vikings lived a very long time ago, we can actually find their ancestors still today. So we can find their ancestors who commonly live in Mexico, and they are known as drug lords. And we know this because of their last name, lords. The Viking warlords and the drug lords. So crossbows are typically thought of a weapon being a thing of the past, but actually a lot of today's special forces use crossbows for two reasons. One reason is they are virtually silent when they shoot, and so they have the advantage over the enemy just due to stealth. And the second reason is it's sad that so much of this history has been lost, and so much of it just really can't even be found today. If you Google the history of crossbows, so much of this information just won't come up. Well, now that we know a little bit of the history about these, let's get into the making of it. So some materials we're gonna need are some scrap lumber, some random pieces of metal, and some springs, some bounce in your bungee, and some beef jerky. Alright guys, so the main frame of this is done. Basically what we need to do now is put in the trigger mechanism, or I guess more of just a release mechanism. It's not going to be much of a trigger. It's just going to be like a little flap that you lift up on. I need to build that. I'm going to try to build some kind of like a flip up rear sight, and then some kind of a front sight post as well. So as you can see, these springs here, these are kind of acting as like the cam on a regular bow, because when you pull this back, they fall off like that. They create tension, and right about there is where the max pressure on the spring is, and then as you fold it back, they almost kind of release pressure. Just because of where this pivot point is. But anyway, so from here on back, this is gonna stretch back at another 8 inches, and that's all on the bungee cord. So the bungee cord's gonna have pretty good thrust to about here, and then those springs pick to about here, and then those springs kick in, and that's really what launches the bolt from there forward. So anyway, this is all speculative. I honestly have no idea what I'm doing. This is the first crossbow that I built. So we'll see how it shoots. It'll launch the bolt. It'll just be a matter of how far it shoots. basically what we came up with. Show you the trigger mechanism up close. It's just that little lever. This is just a thin piece of metal, just to keep a little bit of pressure on the back of the arrow or bolt, whatever. Here's my front sight and also a little something to keep the front of the arrow in place where it can't fall around. That's the front sight post. So basically it'll go something like this. And this gives you a real rough idea of what the bolts are going to look like. I obviously don't have the end made yet, but then it basically will go in here like this. I think I'll probably cut it just a little bit shorter, maybe like just about another 6 inches shorter. That'll be pretty good. So yeah. I think this thing is gonna be pretty sick, guys. All right, so anyway, at the end of this video here in just a second, I'll show you guys the shooting results of that 22 Magnum that I made. All right, guys, so we got the 22 Magnum back. I think I have the scope lined up the way it should be now, so we are gonna just take a few shots and see what kind of accuracy this thing has. So a lot of you guys commented on the fact that since the scope is mounted to the receiver and the barrel just comes out like this to reload, how accurate it's gonna be since the barrel can move. That's what we're here today to find out. So I'm just going to get the scope sighted in real quick, and then I'll put the camera down on target and see what kind of groups we can get out of it. Alright guys, so there's the grouping. It's not too bad, but I was only at 20 yards obviously, so you know it's about a 2-inch, 2's being generous. So again, you know, you take that out to 40 yards and you've opened that up to a 4-inch group, so on and so forth. So for all you guys who were commenting about mounting the scope to the receiver, unless your barrel is fixed firmly into that receiver, yeah, it's not a very good idea. So anyway, I might mount the scope onto like the barrel and go from there. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Till the next video, you guys be safe and we'll see you next time.